How's it going? Today I'm here to simply talk about psychedelics, the potential benefits of psychedelics. In today's video, primarily 5-MeO DMT what I'm going to be focusing on. That's what I've been reading upon the most. I've been interested in that substance in particular the most, particularly because there's not much focus in terms of research or medicinal purposes and therapeutic purposes when we're seeing this legalization across many countries, specifically the United States. I'm more aware of. I'm not too aware of the legality of 5-MeO in specific in other countries. I know Amsterdam, for example, is pretty liberal with their psychedelic general policy. Same with Portugal. Same with Spain. This goes on in Europe. United States, definitely a more strict stance, more of a molasses slow roll towards legalizing the substances. But nevertheless, I think eventually we will see if many, if not all, of these classic psychedelic substances being legalized and used in therapeutic settings. So there's a ton of resources out there for psilocybin, LSD, MDMA, ketamine. List goes on, but I don't see much for the potential benefit of 5-MeO DMT. DMT in general, but specifically 5-MeO DMT. I'm not too familiar on the mechanistic differences between NN-DMT and 5-MeO DMT, but I do know anecdotally there's a vast difference in experience and psychedelic experience when you take the two. You could find many 5-MeO DMT retreats around the world, which is kind of where I've extracted these anecdotal references I'm referring to of people saying, "Oh yeah, it's solved my depression. It's better than any SRI I've taken. It's better than any other psychedelics." That's people say that due to the fact that it only lasts 20 minutes compared to 6 or 12 hours of what you would experience if you took psilocybin or if you took LSD. So there's benefit there. 20 minutes, 6 hours. If someone's not used to being under the influence of these like psychedelic drugs, they would definitely much prefer 20 minutes over 6 hours. And even for cost effectiveness, like having someone looking over someone for 6 hours versus 20 minutes, just logistically you can fit 3 people in 1 hour in a therapeutic setting rather than 2 in a day. But that's not to say that they're same experiences. The 20 minutes is vastly more intense than the 6 hours of a psilocybin trip, I guess you could say. I guess that could be dependent on the dose. There's not much research behind the dosing of 5-MeO. There's a ton of research behind the dosing of psilocybin, therefore it could be more controlled. But nevertheless, I do think there is a ton of potential benefits when we're referring to 5-MeO DMT in specific. The paper I'm going to be referring to today is titled 5-MeO DMT Modifies Innate Behaviors and Promotes Structural Neuroplasticity in Mice. I'm not going to dive into the mechanisms of neuroplasticity and how that potentially cures depression or alleviates the symptoms and anxiety, relief, PTSD, etc., etc. There are many papers that you can refer to that have empirical data on that. The 2 papers that I can definitely recommend to go to after hearing this, if you're interested in the mechanisms, are this. It is written by Sarah J. Jefferson, Ian Gregg, Mark Dibbs, etc., etc. There's a ton of other names under the American College of Neuropsychopharmacology, published on April 4th, 2023. This just goes and shows that under the influence of 5-MeO DMT, there is a empirically noticeable spike in neuroplasticity. Like I said, I'm not going to say what that even means. If you're interested, you can go take a deeper dive. In future videos, I'll probably be a bit more informed to where I feel comfortable saying what that means. I don't want to sound like, I don't want to get like a wrong impression of what increased structural neuroplasticity is, so you kind of have a false belief in your head. But nevertheless, they prove it empirically, and it's just very interesting because what the mechanism of neuroplasticity being increased does is it has been shown to alleviate symptoms of depression. It's been shown to alleviate symptoms of anxiety, of PTSD, of kind of your head, like traumas based off prior instances. An example of what else other than psychedelics might increase your neuroplasticity is that is also proven is aerobic exercise. So the good feeling you have that's from endorphins, of course, but the good feeling you have and just how it's been recommended to, if you're in depression, to kind of get up and get moving, and a byproduct of all that, other than the endorphins and the weight loss, is an increase in neuroplasticity. And this has been shown to be able to kind of take people out of the rut. And another paper that supports this would be the REBUS model, that this paper refers to at kind of a high level, not empirically. It's a theoretical based off two other theoretical, I think they are, papers, the free energy principle and the entropic brain theory. I haven't referred to those papers yet, so I don't know if they're empirical or if they're theoretical. But given the REBUS model being theoretical and kind of latching on to other empirical evidence, I'm gonna assume those other two papers that it's based off are also theoretical. But kind of a general idea, the REBUS model states that the brain, these different brain states are brought on by low brain entropy. Low brain entropy meaning low neuroplasticity. So essentially what psychedelics do is, if you want to kind of imagine a snow globe and you have all the little snow particles settled at the bottom, taking psychedelics and just like shaking it up, and it allows you have all this neuroplasticity, and it kind of removes your brain from being weighed down by all these prior instances. They're referred to as priors, and he states how your everyday life is kind of constituted by all these priors. It lowers your brain entropy because of all the experiences you're having, so it kind of narrows down the scope of experience and narrows down the scope of open-mindedness. And what psychedelics do essentially is just shake it up and detaches the weight from these priors, so your brain can kind of see in a more open-mindedness, liberated of these priors, therefore being able to see things maybe in its objectiveness. I don't really know exactly, that they didn't really specify like what your brain conforms to, and it's not held down by these priors. They didn't say, oh, there's like a overlying truth that your brain kind of conforms to. They're just saying you're more open-minded, so you can see things from a different perspective. Therefore, you kind of get relieved of these priors even after the psychedelic is worn off, because this neuroplasticity occurred and you kind of built other synaptic connections based off the other perspective. Again, very general, maybe even wrong, so I would go take a look at the paper. I'll put a link to REBUS model, how you can get it. It's a free PDF. I downloaded it for free. The 5-MeO DMT in mice is under a paywall, about $9. So very much worth it. I will see if I can actually post the images as I'm talking about it. I'm not sure because I rented it. I didn't purchase it, so I'm not sure if that's actually, if I get in trouble for doing that and to get this video to get taken down. But definitely recommend going and reading both. But nevertheless, I will go into detail in a later video as well, after I understand the REBUS model a bit more technically. But nevertheless, what this signifies is that just psychedelics in general are with a defined mechanism, just helping people get over symptoms of depression, symptoms of anxiety, symptoms of PTSD, traumas, and if you really kind of, I don't want to undermine PTSD as a phrase. PTSD is of course extreme, but if you think about people living under minor traumas that have kind of constituted the way they've lived, and it's brought down their brain entropy, therefore making them see the world under these priors. One example I think could be a eating disorder, obesity. If you kind of want to make a reach for it, I would, at least this is the thought I had when I was reading the paper, obesity is based off these priors of your eating habits. And if you could in a sense shake up the globe, the analogy I'm using, and see this from a different perspective. Oh, I am overeating. This is not good for blah, blah, blah. This is why I developed this. And you're able to kind of let go of those priors and not let them weigh you down, then in a sense, a psychedelic like 5-MeO DMT now could potentially help you, be relieved of your eating disorder, whether it be overeating, whether it be undereating. It's such a general theory that it seems like it has potential to cure most disorders, whether they are labeled or not, under the influence. So, even went as far as, if I remember, like kind of rephrasing trust issues. Like people grow, and at 50, by the time they've had 5 bad relationships and they've developed a trust issue and they don't want to become friends, it's hard for them to form relationships. Any form of relationship, therefore, they become lonely, and it just has all these down the road outcomes that lead you to experiencing a more negative life. And then down the road, with all those prior beliefs that made you not get friends, you become depressed. So it just seems like there's no limit to what this mechanism that is induced by 5-MeO DMT, that being the neuroplasticity increase, just has a ton of potential to really help a lot of people in ways that the way we're addressing them right now just don't seem to be too effective. I don't want to knock down the case of SSRIs or using those. I mean, that's what the best technology is right now. So if you're experiencing depression, that's certainly what you should go for. But I've had tons of anecdotes, and I see it all over the internet, empirical data as well, where it's not too effective. I don't want to spit out a percentage, but I think it's under 50% effectiveness in the long term. And, that could just be for various reasons. If people aren't taking it religiously, lifestyle changes never occur, but just SSRIs on its own just don't promote, just aren't benefiting as much as I think we would see in something such as psychedelics. And that could be because, like, the psychedelic, other than just what it does in its mechanistic form, it also provides you with insights, that being the psychedelic trip, the experience. SSRIs don't. Again, the way in how a psychedelic trip mechanistically and SSRIs attack the serotonin receptors, it's they both act on the serotonin receptors. If you want to look more into that, they're different pathways, of course. But SSRIs just prevent the reuptake of serotonin, and so if you want to look into that more, feel free. I might dive into it in more detail when I can have like a written out technical description, so I don't mess up anymore and get anyone's ideas messed up about these substances. But yeah, I think this is something we need to be looking more into, is 5-MeO DMT. Right now, there are potential ways for someone to go experience this. There are retreats. However, I would be wary of these retreats because they do use the bufo alveolus excretion. And while there's no literature on it, or there's nothing that kind of backs up the potential disadvantages of using that over synthesized, it's very hard to find synthesized, first off, for an affordable price. Under 1,000 euros, I could not. Everything under 1,000 euros was bufo. Now, I don't know, these are retreats in like Portugal and Mexico, so they're kind of doing it in the manner, in a cultural manner still. They believe, excretion naturally is better than synthesization. Same for ayahuasca, which I think there's also issues there. Given that you take with a MEO inhibitor, serotonin syndrome is a possibility. But 5-MeO, I would suggest, if you wanted to go look into potentially taking 5-MeO DMT, do your research, try to find synthesized over the bufo excretion. Just because there's no, like I said, there's no literature. However, the bufo excretion, just the bufo toxins and all the other byproducts in there, just kind of give me a little iffy on the stance of taking that. I'm not suggesting taking 5-MeO and DMT at all in general. There's not enough research behind it. However, I would say just to look into the where these compounds that they're giving you come from. It's also very difficult to control the exact milligram dose that when you're taking it from the excretion of the bufo toad. I don't know the plus minus there, but I know there is uncertainty in the percentage, and like there's an uncertainty in the density of the concentration. There's an uncertainty in the concentration of the 5-MeO DMT within the bufo excretion. That is not the case with synthesized. Synthesized, you can get very direct, and there's been some research given on proper dosage, trying to figure out since the trip is so short, they're able to kind of give someone a small dose, see how they react, up the dose a tad bit, see how they react, all within a day. So certainly would suggest synthesized. Now, this was just kind of to spark some interest. I don't know if I jumped around, was kind of ununderstandable with all this. I'll take a look back and see, of course, if this is of any value. But nevertheless, what I'm going to try to be doing to promote, alternative medicines or psychedelics is highlight a research paper. Try to highlight as much research papers and throw a video out on it, just because I don't see much resources for it. So, of course, the next ones are going to be somewhat technical. I mean, technical to the extent that I'm able to, technical to the extent of what I can find on the internet and do my personal research on. I don't have clinical research. I graduated with a degree in data science. I don't have any, lab research experience, so I don't want to misinterpret anything or kind of give a false idea. But nevertheless, I think there needs to be more resources about these substances on the internet and about the potential use case, just so we can kind of see some, we can spark some interest, spark some interest in the substances and potentially, create life-altering therapeutics in the near future for people that are struggling with, chronic depression. They haven't been able to get proper results from an SSRI or whatever we have right now to treat depression. There's potential in alcoholism, addiction of any sort. So I think this is looking very bright for the future. We kind of just need to buckle down and get the dosing right, get everything right that is leading to fatal cases right now. I could possibly highlight the fatal cases in a future video just so you can understand what it is. I don't think I've seen one yet with serotonin syndrome, which is good, meaning that 5-MeO DMT directly isn't the cause of the fatality in most of these people. It's via pathway of like heart attack or stroke. No, not stroke. Via pathways like heart attack or et cetera, et cetera. I'll highlight those in a later video, but nevertheless, that's kind of it. I hope this was able to spark a little interest in psychedelics in your head. It's not all, it's not all raves and MDMA. It's not all raves and psilocybin and then, going crazy. What maybe your previous anecdotes on seeing people under the influence of psychedelics was. There's a ton of potential benefit here, and I suggest that you just take a look at some of the literature that I will link, some behind paywall, some behind not, and just, give it a shot, because this is something with a ton of potential benefit. Thank you.